I'm Angela Padilla. I'm from the Skirball Science Learning Center on the 7th floor in the Student Success Center. We're one of 3 success centers. So we have the Writing Center and the Math Center, and we have a nice little thing going on that 7th floor East building at the top floor of the library. I'm also an adjunct lecturer at within physics and astronomy, and I teach the first year labs. So as I said before, now that I'm being recorded, nothing is working. Now I'm clicking. Okay, so Skirball Science Learning Center and Project Fresh. Project Fresh is a grant to help support first year students in STEM. So the FRESH part stands for first year retention and equity in STEM at Hunter College. So Project Fresh. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the Skirball Science Learning Center, where we are course specific, STEM course specific, first year biology, first year chemistry, organic chemistry, first year physics, and nursing chemistry. So we work with STEM courses. We do a lot of group peer learning because we want students to collaborate. You know, students tend to want to work by themselves. Every time I ask someone, you know, who do you work with? They're like, myself. And these are the same students that I ask that work by themselves are the ones that are struggling. And I'm trying to teach them. We are all trying to teach them that is not the way. That was high school and that worked well for that model. But this is a different model because, and I always go to them and I say, what are you looking for? What profession are you going into? And whatever they say, doctor, nurse, whatever. And I say, where do you ever see that person work by themselves? And they're like, never. I said, that's the point. So we do a lot of group peer learning. Supplemental instruction is for biology, and that's actually trying to learn the strategies of being successful in biology. So it's more like a workshop. It's more hands-on. It's more a student-centered model where the workshop facilitator gets the students to actually solve the problems and ask the questions. So it doesn't repeat lecture or anything like that. It assumes that the student does the lecture and then let's workshop. Let's practice what you learn. And then you can't get away from academic advising. We're not technically the advising department, but students are always asking, do I need this? Do I need that? What happens if I fail the lab? Do I need to take the lecture again, and vice versa? So academic advising always goes hand in hand. And this is why we have that peer model, because the students are the best resources. They know what the students need. I took STEM courses last century, so I'm a little out of date, right? So we want to keep it fresh. And basically, this is a place to form study groups and have people practice and feel comfortable. And for many of my students, it's their first job experience. I pull a lot of work study students, and I kind of select them by who's a STEM student, who's taking STEM courses. Now you have no reason to not come to the Science Learning Center for tutoring because you already work here. So I do that as well. And so there's lots of professional development going on. Once I have the peers facilitating everything, they're developing their collaboration and communication skills and all of that. So as I said, first year retention and equity in STEM at Hunter, that's Project Fresh. And as of 2017, Hunter was deemed a Hispanic serving institution. So our target audience is Latinx, technically Latinas, because they tend to do not as well as everyone else in STEM, but that doesn't mean we exclude everybody else. If you're taking that first year chemistry course, guess what? You're invited to. But so again, collaboration, equity, and diversity. We all need each other to learn. So we're in our 2nd year of a 5-year grant. So yay, we're doing pretty good. We have good steam going on. Lots of support, student development. So along with tutoring and chem workshops, we also do things like note-taking skills and strategies and just learning how to use degree works and all of that. So we have academic advising again, and our focus courses are the Chem 102, 104, and Bio, because these are generally the first year courses that incoming freshmen are going to take their 1st and 2nd semester. So again, the model is peer-led. Now, the big thing that we do is STEM Saturday. From 10 to 5, students are here working on their chemistry at some level. So we have tutors throughout the day. We'll do some workshop. We'll do exam prep. We feed them lunch from 1 to 2 to make sure that they stay the full day. I have the library opens at 11. We're here at 10. And it's just to have students learn to build their stamina for studying for so long. Because when they hear the formula for every hour of lecture, you need to be studying 3 times outside, and that sounds like a horrendous amount of time. I said, well, if you're doing it by yourself, absolutely. But if you're doing it together, the time flies by. So I said, you come here for STEM Saturday, half of your studying for chemistry is done within this week. And half of your studying is done in one day. We have Fresh Friday. Generally, Fresh Fridays are the student developments. That's the, degree works, advising, planning your degree, strategies for success and things like that. And we added study hall Thursdays for people who can't make it Saturdays from 12 to 5. Work here. This is our space, or technically your space to just come. You don't even know what to do, but once you start coming, it doesn't seem so bad, right? Working that first muscle. So like people are always afraid and timid at first. So I bribe them with treats. Once we have the treats and we're laughing and giggling, it's a little more comfortable. And then when you see you're actually learning something too, guess what? You come back. You will come back. We have the Summer Bridge program. So that's a 2-week program. We started with 1 week when we first started, only 4 days. That was too much, too compact. So we did it last summer for 10 days. And we didn't spread our little dirty secret about Fridays not being open at CUNY. We had the students come in 9 to 5. They didn't know the difference. So for 10 days, these students came and they enjoyed themselves and they learned something and they got to meet each other and they got to be comfortable with the campus. And now you know where this room is because, Hunter is a maze with their north building and all of that. So that's a nice thing. And then we also did one winter warm up because they're taking lab in the spring. So we want to prepare them for that as well. And for some of the students that didn't place into the Chemistry 102, we also extended a boot camp pretty much for them as well. And of course, bio boot camp. So teaching, advising, and support. Student success goals. Once we keep that in mind, whether you're working at the Learning Center or you're teaching a course, if you keep that student success goals in mind, everything will kind of follow. So one thing you need to know is that we have to have transparency. Transparency is key. Provide student expectations. What do we want from them? And say it. And not only say it, write it down, send smoke signals, whatever you need to do, but they need to know what to expect. What learning sources that they need to utilize to be successful in your class, right? Many students coming in class, their chief complaint is, I don't learn anything from the professor. Well, yeah, you're not supposed to, right? That's what the learning centers are for. I said, what, you're going to go to you're going to get your job and your boss is going to walk you through steps by step by step? No, they're going to expect you. They're going to give you a task. They're going to give you a project and they're going to expect you to work it out and use your resources. So I try to tell them that everything that you do here at the college level mirrors. It's that practice for your professional development. I keep trying to tell them that. Takes them a while, usually after the first exam, when we have that conversation, but then they start to warm up to the idea. Tell them how much time that it should take them to put into assignments. Sometimes they go, oh, it looks easy. And I was like, well, if you bullet point everything that they need, if you have templates and all of that, and they see what it takes to get full credit, then they'll start to pace themselves a little bit. If you just say, oh, do this by, a report by the end of the week. Oh, okay, I got it. No, I'm very detailed down to I want headers and footers and I want this and that. You have to explain. I want not just page numbers. I want one of, X of Y. That's how, and I explicitly tell them what I want. Then when they lose a point, and I'm like, well, how come I lost points? Well, you see right here, it said this. So it kind of protects you. And it also makes them understand that you really need to read. I talk with them through it in the class, but as soon as they leave class, they're on to the next class and they forgot that, but now they have something to hold on to. Provide clear, detailed rubrics, templates, point distributions, always model. Always model. So I have to emphasize that point. And then feed forward, feedback, course points, right? Oh, I would have did this had you said that. Why did I lose 10 points? Well, you didn't say I needed this. So make sure you put it on at the beginning. Inform them what they can expect of you as well. It's not a one-sided thing. So you want to let them know what you'll provide and what you won't. students come to my class and they do well because I'm so clear and detailed. Then they want to ask me for a letter of recommendation. I said, given that, I tell them from the start, I don't give letters of recommendation. You do very well in my class because you follow directions and you submitted the assignment on time. It's not really the forum for me to see your analytical and all those other skills. I said, come work for me and tutor, then we can talk, we can have that conversation elsewhere. But let them know what you're willing to do and what you can't do. How long to expect you to reply from emails or texts or whatever. I have a Google cell phone number for them. It takes me about this time. If you want to reach me quickly, text me. If otherwise 24 hours to 48 on the weekends or something like that. And then where possible, learn your students' names. I cannot express how important it is to know that you're speaking to your student, Julie, and know how to pronounce their name. Now they can't hide, because if they think that you don't know them, they're going to hide, and then they think, oh, I'll hide behind this one. They won't know. I'm innocuous. No. I'm calling you out in class. And this is why I love teaching lab, because I can't actually walk around the classroom and talk to people. Even when I do lecture, I'm walking around. I'm like, you'll see me in the aisles. I'm not letting you hide. Validate. This is another key point that I'm learning. We get here and it's clear that this is that, and it's so easy and it's so simple, and this is basic and this is fundamental. No, it is only basic and fundamental and easy if you've done it about 20 to 30 times. To a student doing it for the first time, it's really a challenge. Making that pot of rice for the first time is a challenge. How many of us have burned things for the first time that now we don't think about it, right? So validate that it is a challenge. Remind students why the work is challenging. Oh, it's so hard. Well, I don't want a doctor that has to be like, well, I think it's this. I want a doctor that knows, that is an expert in his or her field. This is not high school. This is not an overview. This is not a survey course. The chemistry here and the biology here is more about testing your analytical and critical thinking capability. So you remind them why they're doing that. And then it's less whining, and then they know that they just have to put in more effort. Show the process. You have to scaffold. If you want something from them, show them what you mean. You can't just give this hand-waving thing and then expect it to come out perfect. Even when you go with them step by step and hand over hand, they're new at it. They're still not going to be at the level, at the perfect level. But again, with rubrics and templates and things like that, you can support them and they will be very successful in your class. And most of the time I get a high level of success. Students that don't do well in my classes because they don't come, or they just hide and they don't ask me questions. And then provide checkpoints and reflection questioning. Throughout the labs, I'm like, okay, well, what is this? What is that? Even if it's a multiple choice, it's not so much that it's easy, but it's just to make them think, why are you doing this? What did we measure? What did we calculate? And again, model what you mean. So this is what I mean on modeling, right? Oh, I love Snagit. This is ACERT teaching me how to use Snagit. And I go through all of this and say, if I want a well-labeled diagram, guess what? I'm showing them what a well-labeled diagram looks like. Also, I'm showing them what things that they need to key in and pay attention to and focus on. So here, this is on Blackboard. So I give the assignment and then I say what the PDF is and then what you're going to do, what you're looking like. So a little preview, not that you're going to know it, but at least you're going to know the terms that I'm talking about that you don't understand. Again, that's how you use a vernier caliper, right? This is what I'm looking for. And again, looking at this, you don't know exactly what I mean, but at least you have some focus so that we're in class, you can ask, well, what do you mean? I see this. How does that relate to what we're measuring? And then I put a video on some of the things that are a little more difficult. And I like this because then you can recycle it. I don't have to do this video all the time. One time is enough. And it doesn't have to be perfect. If you wait for perfection, action, cut, and all of it takes too long. You can trip on your words. Keep it moving. They won't notice. Again, what do I mean? What am I looking at? And you want to start building student confidence. And this is why you need a bottle of water. And I'll explain a little bit more what that means, why you need a bottle of water. Question often. Why did I do that? Why did I say this? Because sometimes we're so used to, oh, let me keep a time clock. Let me cover the material. One of my professors once told us, we don't cover the material. We are going to discover the material. From that lens, things are a little bit like, oh, okay. So we have time to think about it. Let's digest this a little bit. Why did I say that? Why did I put this here? Provide ample wait time for student response. Sometimes we ask a question and we think that we've waited long enough, and then we say, okay, well, here's the answer. Don't do that. It's not enough time. Like washing your hands, right? 15, 20 seconds for washing your hands. That's a long time. That's why you have to sing what happy birthday or something like that, or sing the ABCs. So restate and rephrase the question to kind of to fill that space or that void of quiet. So just don't answer the question. So you can restate it, rephrase it, ask someone else to say, well, what did I ask? Or something like that. What part of the question didn't you understand? But you have to provide hints or something. You can ask either or. You know, what colors are the high frequency colors in the electromagnetic spectrum? Is it yellow or is it purple? Oh, okay, I know. Now, you know, you give them some sort of context of what you mean, because when they're open-ended, yeah, you want open-ended questions later, but open-ended questions to a student who's just learning and they're afraid, even when they know it, they won't answer. So that's why I do either ors, yes or no, something. So that water bottle is for you to take a sip and give them some time to answer, or have your coffee or something, you know, breathe. And sometimes now I've gotten so good at it. I'm like, I'm not saying anything. I'm going to drink my water until somebody answers the question. I'm going to hold you hostage. So again, we're going to build student confidence. You want to build to the higher ordered complex questions. So that's why you start off with either or. You don't end that way, but you just want them to say something, because once they get it right, then they feel a little better. And then they'll try to answer something else, right? So redirect student questions back to the students and to the class. If the student asks a question, well, turn it to the class. Somebody's going to answer. Somebody knows the answer. They may not always think they know, but they do know. They know more than what they give themselves credit for. If you stop talking, students will start talking. That's the main thing. So carry that water bottle all the time. And teach students to trust their process. You know, my students ask me all the time, they're taking data, is this right? I said, well, you tell me. What does the percent error tell you? I don't know. I can't think for you. Why do you think it's good? Try not to answer the question. And that doesn't mean that you're not supporting them. It just means you're forcing them to think on their own. So you're the expert. So don't take it personal. Don't take it personal that they're going to ask you the question, even though they know, even though they're writing it down, right? So when a student asks you a question on something that you so eloquently explained, you know, it used to frustrate me. I'm like, wow, I thought I did a good job explaining and expressing, and I used diagrams, but guess what? You're the expert. They're not. They're learning it for the first time. So they want to confirm that what they're thinking is correct. So when you look at it that way, it's like, oh, okay, I'll answer again. I'll say it again. And just because you said it doesn't mean they heard it, right? They're still stuck on something that you said 2 or 3 sentences ago. So give them time. Welcome redundancy, right? We learn with repetition and say, yeah, good. And then when I have students answer the question and somebody says, well, that's what I was going to say, well, say it again. Say it in your words. I want to hear it in your voice. There's no problem with that. Welcome it. Use navigate. Also, you know, when you're being repetitive, also do that when you give information too, right? So we do a Blackboard announcement. Is that enough? No. It might be enough for somebody who has an alert on their phone, but for someone like me, it's not enough. So I'm texting, I'm emailing. I love Navigate for that. And then when I still don't get responses, make it a campaign. For some reason that they respond to that more. So I do like using Navigate, and I just overwhelm them sometimes, because sometimes they need to be overwhelmed, right? In this digital world, If they don't see your message at that second, 10 other messages just came and replaced your spot. So you have to be, you have to be a little patient with that. So repeat. And guess what? We're going to repeat it again. Fear inhibits engagement. You have to understand that. Yes, and I said it already. The students know, but they're afraid of getting things wrong. K through 12 kills that, right? Oh, you're wrong. You look at your exam, it's bleeding with all these red marks and things like that. So you're afraid to say anything wrong. Here you have to embrace that. Do not underestimate that fear of being wrong, because even when they are right, they're not going to answer, and that just kills the learning. They're just waiting for you to pour this information in their head, and it's not going to happen. So explain that being wrong is part of that learning process. You want to get it wrong. I'm glad you asked that. Why did you think that? This is the time to get it wrong versus on the test. So I'm glad you asked that question. This isn't easy. That is a challenging question. Encourage incorrect responses. It opens, to open thought-provoking dialogue. Sometimes you let a bunch of people say it wrong. I can see where the misconception is. Let's work through that, right? We're going to analyze those so-called wrong answers. There's a reason why it's wrong. No shame, no blame. You want students to feel that this is the time to work through it. And I always tell them, you got to express it. And then I say, you ever have that good idea in your head? And they're like, yeah. And then you try to execute it. It wasn't such a great idea. Same thing. You have to talk it through. And I said, a lot of times you're going to answer your own question just by speaking it aloud. It sounds differently outside your head than inside. And this is the one thing I don't like. Oh, you should know this already. Oh, this is easy. This is simple. No, 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 no. That kills engagement. So again, students need to feel safe to be wrong, safe to learn. Learning is often getting it wrong before you're right. So they need to feel safe. Teach learning, right? Teach learning strategies. Model process. More sustainable than facts alone, right? We're so compelled, or we feel so like we really need to get this point across, get this fact, get this construct, get this strategy. It's like not strategy, but this answer. We're always looking for the answer. It's not the answer. It's about the practice. Today with Google, you can find any answer. And I tell my students that. So I really don't care what the answer is. I want to see what your process is. You can correct an answer, but process is a little bit more challenging to deal with. So I just remind them. And also you have to be flexible. Diversity is the rule, right? Rules often exclude. Okay, I need this done by XYZ time. And you think you're being fair, right? But what if that student has a child, or if that student works at night? Then that 11:59 deadline may not be so reasonable, right? Religious observations. Oh, handed in on Saturday. I just excluded a whole bunch of my students. You have to be flexible. So if I say Saturday, guess what? There's a 24-hour grace period. Guidelines can be more flexible and adjustable. So say guidelines. That's a little less rigid. And then also remind ourselves and students, they're necessary. Rules and guidelines are definitely necessary, but just provide reasonings. I'm just not pulling this out of the air why I'm saying to do this. There's a reason behind that. I also have deadlines. I also have to do this. This is going to tell me how this assignment, how everybody does on this assignment, tells me how I'm going to move forward with the rest of the class. Whatever it is, just give some sort of explanation and then follow your guidelines, right? We can't make the rules and then break them. We have to kind of stick to it. But believe your students, you still have to be a little flexible. If something happens in this digital world, students say all types of things, and guess what? Maybe last century they were far-fetched. Not so much today. Our student is different than they were last century. So if they say something and they have a pretty good track record, give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, if it becomes habitual, then that's something different. Diversity is the rule again, right? Being flexible. Very important. Diversify your assignments as well. And that's how you'll get over on, being flexible, extending a deadline, or just taking up a couple of points. If you diversify your assignments and don't put all your eggs in one basket, then being kind to someone isn't really that big of a deal, and it doesn't hinder everybody else, because you have these guidelines to be fair to everybody. So if you let someone slide on an assignment being a little late and they lose a couple of points, but it's such a low stakes that overall in the average, it's still fair. And you want to, so again, provide more low stakes assignments. Offered various assignment options, auto-graded and written assignments. You know, I have a reflection, so I give them choices. You can talk about, you know, the challenge that you had with this experiment, or you can talk about something about the real world that has to do with the concept that we're talking about today. Or if you like, you can go to the writing center and have them look over, you know, workshop your report and then discuss about that, how that experience was. So now I gave them 3 choices, and now they can decide what they want to do. But they're still writing and thinking. And then state what you want very clearly. Use point distributions. Yes, I'm being repetitive with this because the student's like, oh, I didn't see that. I'm like, yes, I did. I put it right there. Not only did I say it, I wrote it, you know, I put a little, this is worth so many points or whatever. And now it's like, oh, okay, she means that. And then encourage student collaboration. Again, refer them to the resources that they need. Because when you say it, they kind of shut down because you're the expert, you're the professor, you're this, you're that. So, okay, they're going to shake their head just because they want to please, and not because, you know, they're going to question you less if they don't understand anything. Well, she said it and she wrote it, so I guess I'm supposed to understand it. That's not really the case. So you want to encourage student collaboration. So again, with that learning center, I always send my students there. I encourage it when we're doing Project Fresh, or I'm asking my students, who do you study with? I'm always trying to force them to make sure you collaborate and understand why you need to collaborate, because in the professional realm, you need to collaborate. You don't do any job by yourself, right? So again, we offer opportunities for them to collaborate if they don't know how to form study groups on their own. So we do workshops, we do this, we do that. This way they don't feel like, well, if I'm new, I don't know anybody. That's okay, you know me. You come here, you were invited, so come. And once they start seeing how much fun it is, they keep returning. So we did the winter lab skills, which I loved. We moved from the actual lab because this was relatively safe. We did this in our actual learning center. So the students are actually learning how to use the pipette, which is basically the main thing, is to learn how to use that tool. And they had fun doing it, right? With a little food coloring. What else do we do, right? They're looking up, they made the Pac-Man ghost. I thought that was cute. If you see here, he's not even a sophomore yet, or no, he's just in his sophomore year. And he's leading the groups. And then we have other volunteers. And I get them from the previous year. You know, so again, you're building these relationships and these collaborations with the students and listening to them. And because they have such a voice and they want to help, and any help that they offer students is more relevant. Students feel more safe to ask them questions and on advising in anything on campus. So I love this model where the students lead. And again, we're having fun. We do all types of events. They always got something going on. They start off very shy and timid to the point where now everybody's like the best friends. I have such you know, they stay later than they're supposed to. They come earlier than they're supposed to. That they've made this their home, and which I like. And it's a working home. They're not goofing off. They're actually working. And we have fun too, and we feed. And even when we have game night, there's always a teachable moment. So you'll see me there always putting in my 2 cents and asking them how many hours do they study outside of class and who they work with and things like that. It's always happening. And one of the things I keep trying to tell my students, chase the learning. The grades are going to follow. Right? We chase that learning, the grades will follow, because they're so busy trying for that grade. And I say, yeah, you can chase the grades and you will make the grade, but then you'll forget everything that you learned come next semester. I said, so we want to chase that learning. And then for us, teaching is learning, right? My teaching is never the same. I've taught the same lab courses for, let's not say how many years, but no two classes are ever the same because I'm learning from my students what they need. And because technology is changing, you know, you have to evolve. You don't have to, but it's more fun that way. So learning can be fun, but it isn't a game. That's the one thing that we need to remember. So thank you. Thank you for listening.